Welcome to our channel, where we reveal some of the rarest and most valuable dimes collectors dream of finding. These holy grail coins may look ordinary but hold incredible value because of their rarity and condition. Let's explore what makes them so special. Before you toss your spare change into a jar, or slide a dime across the counter without a second thought, take a pause. Every coin has a story, some more valuable than we imagine. Some hide their worth in plain sight. And the first coin we're looking at today is a perfect example of that. It's the 1981 Roosevelt dime, minted in Philadelphia. Now, if you're holding a handful of dimes right now, there's a good chance one of them is from the early 1980s. These coins are common, in the millions, and the 1981 version, at first glance, blends in with all the rest. It's small, light, and often ignored. But there's something about this specific coin, and its subtle rarity, that makes it worth a second look. The Roosevelt dime was introduced in 1946, a year after the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. He was more than just the 32nd president, he had become a symbol of strength and perseverance, especially through the Great Depression and World War II. But his connection to this coin runs deeper than just political leadership. Roosevelt played a central role in the fight against polio, a disease that had affected him personally. The March of Dimes campaign, which raised funds to combat polio, was named in part due to his involvement. So, placing his image on the dime wasn't just symbolic, it was a tribute to his legacy in health, recovery, and resilience. The design itself was created by John R. Sinek. The obverse features Roosevelt's left-facing portrait, with the inscriptions, Liberty, In God We Trust, the year, and the mint mark, although, in Philadelphia's case, the mint mark wasn't used in 1981. On the reverse, you'll find a lit torch, flanked by an olive branch on the left and an oak branch on the right. Together, they represent liberty, peace, and strength, ideals that Roosevelt stood for. The 1981 production run was not a special issue. There were no commemorative designs, no anniversary editions, and no flashy mint errors intended for collectors. In fact, the Philadelphia Mint produced over 500 million dimes that year. So how does such a common coin end up being valuable? The answer lies not in the overall mintage, but in what survived, and how it survived. Most coins leave the mint, enter circulation, and are quickly subjected to the wear and tear of daily use. They're dropped, passed from hand to hand, scuffed in pockets, scraped by keys, worn smooth by vending machines. That's normal. But now and then, a few coins avoid that rough journey. They might be pulled directly from mint sets. Or someone might save them early, maybe without even realizing it, and store them safely away. Coins that remain untouched, retaining their original mint luster and sharp details, are the ones collectors prize. And when it comes to modern dimes, especially those without silver content, condition is everything. Even a tiny flaw can lower a coin's grade and value. A 1981 P. Roosevelt dime in circulated condition is usually worth no more than face value. That's the baseline. But an uncirculated coin in exceptional condition, especially one graded MS-67 or higher, is another story. It becomes increasingly rare the higher you climb on the grading scale. Out of hundreds of millions produced, only a small number remain in such pristine condition. Then, we have the occasional anomaly, coins struck on defective planchets, or with minor die issues. These minting errors aren't always dramatic or obvious, but under close inspection, they offer small signs of uniqueness. And to a specialist, that uniqueness translates into collectability. But even without errors, coins of near-perfect quality attract attention, especially for collectors building what are called registry sets. These are collections of coins with the goal of achieving the highest possible grade across every year and mint mark. For coins like the 1981 P. Roosevelt dime, which don't typically survive in MS-68 condition or better, a top-grade example becomes a centerpiece. And that's where the value comes in. Not every 1981 P dime will be worth more than 10 cents. In fact, nearly all of them aren't. But for the rare ones that have been preserved almost perfectly, demand begins to rise. Not just because of their rarity, but because they complete a gap in high-end collections. And competition for those rare few examples can drive prices up significantly. In one notable instance, a 1981 Roosevelt dime minted in Philadelphia, perfectly preserved, sharply struck, and professionally graded, reached a surprising figure in the collector's market. After much attention and verified authentication, that particular coin sold for $86,000. It's a reminder that even modern coins, the kind we carry every day, can become significant over time, if they survive untouched. And sometimes, the most valuable pieces aren't the ones with flashy designs or low mintages. They're the ordinary coins that somehow remained extraordinary. So the next time you come across a Roosevelt dime, don't just glance at the date and move on. Take a moment. Look at the surface. Notice the details. You never know, you could be holding something much more valuable than it seems. Now let's move on to our second coin, and don't let its size fool you. This next piece is one of the smallest coins in your pocket, but under the right circumstances, it's worth far more than anyone expects. We're talking about the 1990 Roosevelt dime, minted at the Denver Mint, known to collectors as the 1990 D dime. At a glance, there's nothing flashy about it. No unusual markings, no limited edition release, no precious metal content. In fact, it looks just like every other dime you've probably handled hundreds of times, light, clad in copper nickel, and tossed into change jars or vending machines without a second thought. But as with many coins, the real story isn't on the surface, it's in the details, and in the rarity hidden in plain sight. The Roosevelt dime series began in 1946. By 1990, it was already a long-established part of American currency. The design, featuring President Franklin D. Roosevelt on the front, with the words, "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" to his left, had remained mostly unchanged. The reverse side carried the torch, olive branch, and oak branch, symbols of liberty, peace, and strength. It's a design we all recognize. Familiar. Comfortable. Common. But here's where things start to shift. In 1990, the Denver Mint struck more than 900 million Roosevelt dimes. That's nearly 1 billion coins in 1 year, more than enough for everyone in the country at the time to have a handful. With a mintage number that high, it's easy to assume that none of those coins could be valuable. After all, how could something that common be considered rare? But in numismatics, the world of coin collecting, rarity isn't always about how many were made. It's about how many survived in perfect condition. And that's where this coin separates itself. Most of the 1990 D dimes were made for one purpose, everyday use. They were shipped in bulk to banks, loaded into coin rolls, dispensed in stores, and carried in pockets. The journey of a circulated dime is not a gentle one: friction, scratches, dulling, contact with other coins, all of these things wear down a coin's original detail. And once that happens, the value drops back down to its face value. 10 cents. But once in a while, a coin escapes circulation. Maybe it was pulled straight from a mint set. Maybe someone saved it by chance and kept it in a drawer, untouched. Those few coins that avoided the usual wear stand out because they still carry their original mint brilliance, sharp edges, bold features, and an unblemished surface. That's when professional grading comes into play. Coins are graded on a 70-point scale. An uncirculated coin that still looks good might get an MS-65, which is fine. But the really valuable coins? They reach MS-67, MS-68, or higher. At that level, even the smallest nick can drop the grade. Only a very limited number of coins ever reach MS-68 status or above, and when they do, collectors take notice. That's exactly what happened with the 1990 D Roosevelt dime. For years, collectors noticed that finding this coin in top-grade condition was surprisingly difficult. Despite the high mintage, examples graded MS-68 were incredibly rare. Most coins from this year simply didn't survive in pristine shape. And that created an unusual situation: a modern coin with a common date, but near impossible to find in flawless condition. The few that did get professionally graded and certified at that high level became hot items in the collector market. Registry collectors, people building top-tier sets of every year and mint mark, began competing to own the finest examples available. And when only a few exist, the price climbs fast. Eventually, one of these coins, a 1990 D. Roosevelt dime graded MS-68, was put up for public auction. It wasn't flashy. It didn't carry an error or a dramatic variation. But it was nearly perfect. A coin that had survived over 3 decades without a single noticeable flaw. And for collectors who understand how rare that is, this coin became the centerpiece of serious bidding. When the auction ended, the final hammer price shocked casual observers, but not seasoned collectors. That single dime, originally worth 10 cents, sold for $64,000. Not because of silver content. Not because of an error. But because of exceptional quality and extreme scarcity at the highest grade level. It's a powerful reminder of what matters in the world of coin collecting. Rarity isn't always about how many coins were made, it's about how many survived in exceptional shape. And condition, especially in modern coins, can be everything. So, the next time you come across a handful of change, slow down. Take a moment. Check the date. Look at the details. That little 1990 D dime might not seem special, but under the right circumstances, it could be something extraordinary, not just a coin, but a hidden treasure. Now let's take a look at another dime that's flown under the radar for years, the 1997 Roosevelt dime, struck at the Denver Mint. It's easy to miss coins from the late 90s because they feel so recent. We often assume that value only comes with age. But in reality, some of the most surprising finds in coin collecting aren't the oldest, they're the ones that have quietly become scarce in specific conditions. And this 1997 D dime is one of them. If you think about 1997, it doesn't feel like it was that long ago. Gas was under $2 a gallon, DVDs were just starting to replace VHS tapes, and the US Mint was still years away from launching the state quarters program. The Roosevelt dime had already been in use for over 50 years, unchanged in design and still playing its usual role in everyday cash transactions. It was, and still is, a quiet presence in American currency. The 1997 D. Roosevelt dime was one of the most widely circulated coins of that year. The Denver Mint produced well over 1.1 billion of them. That's billion, with a B. It's a number that automatically makes most people assume the coin is too common to ever be valuable. And in most cases, that assumption would be right. The vast majority of these coins were spent, tossed in pockets, dropped in soda machines, and worn down through everyday use. But as we've seen with other coins, it's never just about how many were made, it's about how many survived in pristine shape. The Roosevelt dime design, which debuted in 1946, remained the same on the 1997 D version. On the obverse, you'll see Roosevelt's left-facing portrait, along with the words, "Liberty, in God we trust," the mint mark, D, for Denver, and the date. The reverse is just as familiar, a torch in the center, flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch. Simple, symbolic, and deeply American, nothing about the design suggests rarity. There's no error visible to the naked eye. No double dies, no missing features, no off-center strikes. But this coin's story lies not in mistakes, but in perfection, or at least, near-perfection. In coin collecting, condition is everything. Coins are evaluated using a 70-point grading scale. The vast majority of coins from circulation fall somewhere well below the highest levels. That's to be expected. They've been used, they've been handled, and they've aged with the times. But when a coin manages to survive in flawless condition, untouched, uncirculated, and perfectly struck, it becomes much more than just spare change. That's where the 1997 D. Roosevelt dime begins to stand out. Despite over 1 billion being minted, only a minuscule number have surfaced in gem condition, that is, mint state 68, MS-68, or higher. The Denver Mint is known for producing coins with strong strikes, but even then, quality control doesn't guarantee every coin comes out perfect. Surface marks, slight weak spots, or small imperfections often appear even on uncirculated pieces. So, when a 1997 D dime appears in MS68 condition, it grabs attention. Collectors who focus on registry sets, where the goal is to collect the finest graded examples of every year and mint mark, are especially drawn to coins like this. They aren't looking for average. They're looking for the best, and in the case of the 1997 D dime, that level of preservation is incredibly hard to find. It's not just that these coins are old enough to have been spent and worn down, it's that the ones that weren't spent usually came from mint sets, and even those can have small flaws. So, finding a coin from this year and mint with no noticeable marks, full luster, and perfect details is extremely rare. One such coin, carefully preserved, fully struck, and submitted to a leading third-party grading service, achieved the coveted MS68 full torch designation. That means not only was the coin in mint state condition, but it also showed full definition in the torch lines on the reverse, a sign of an exceptionally sharp strike. Once graded, it entered the marketplace, and collectors noticed that as word of this high-grade example spread, interest grew quickly. Those who had been trying to fill gaps in their top-tier Roosevelt dime sets knew this was the kind of coin that might not come around again for a long time. And when a coin becomes essential to a competitive set, price becomes secondary to rarity. Eventually, the coin sold. Not in a bidding frenzy, not in a viral moment, but in a quiet, serious transaction between collectors who understood exactly what was at stake. And the final price? It wasn't pocket change. That single 1997 D Roosevelt dime, in top-graded, full detail, flawless mint condition, sold for $48,000. Most of us have handled hundreds of dimes like this without thinking twice. But this one tells a different story. Not because it's flashy or rare in design, but because of what it represents: preservation, precision, and timing. If it had gone through just one vending machine, if it had hit the floor once, if it had even a single faint scratch, it would have never made it to that level. So the next time you open a coin roll, or leaf through a forgotten mint set, don't be too quick to skip over the dimes from the 1990s. The key to a valuable find might not be in the age, but in the condition. That perfect strike, that clean surface, that full torch detail, it all adds up. Next up, we're looking at a coin that you've probably seen hundreds of times, maybe even used without a second thought. It's small, it's familiar, and it was minted in huge numbers. But under certain conditions, this everyday coin becomes something very few collectors have ever seen in person. We're talking about the 2000 Roosevelt dime from the Denver Mint, a coin that quietly became one of the most valuable modern dimes out there. By the year 2000, the Roosevelt dime had been circulating for over 5 decades. The design had remained unchanged since it first appeared in 1946, with Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse, and the reverse showing the torch, olive branch, and oak branch, representing liberty, peace, and strength. Most people didn't pay it any special attention. It was just another dime in everyday life. The Denver Mint produced over 1.3 billion of these dimes in 2000. That kind of number practically defines the word common. So it's understandable why most people wouldn't consider this coin collectible, let alone valuable. But in coin collecting, mintage doesn't always tell the whole story. It's not just about how many were made, it's about how many survived in the highest possible quality. Nearly all of those 1.3 billion dimes entered circulation immediately. They were exchanged, dropped, rubbed against other coins, and over time, most lost the sharp details and surface shine they once had. But a very small number, possibly just a handful, were set aside early, untouched by wear, and stored in a way that preserved every tiny detail. That's where the story begins to change. In coin grading, even the slightest nick or dull spot can significantly lower a coin's score. Grading services evaluate every part of the coin under magnification, from the boldness of the design to the quality of the strike and luster. A dime might look perfect to the eye, but only coins that are truly flawless in every measurable way reach the highest grades. For the 2000 D dime, that high grade is mint state 68 with full torch. Full torch is a special designation reserved for Roosevelt dimes that show complete detail in the vertical lines of the torch on the reverse. It's a sign that the coin was struck extremely well at the mint, with no weakness in those fine areas. Combine that with MS-68, a grade that reflects near-perfect condition, and you're looking at a coin that's almost impossible to find. Most examples from this year and mint simply don't come close. Even dimes pulled from uncirculated mint sets often show slight marks or soft details that disqualify them. That's what makes the few top-grade examples so important. They're not just rare, they're among the best survivors from a sea of over a billion. What makes this even more interesting is how overlooked this coin still is by the general public. It's not silver, it's not old, and it doesn't feature a unique design. But in the world of serious collectors, especially those building competitive registry sets, this coin has become a key target. Not because it's flashy, but because of how hard it is to find in true gem condition. When one of these coins is discovered, preserved in perfect condition and certified by a trusted grading service, its value takes a major leap. Because while nearly everyone has seen a 2000 D dime, only a handful of collectors own one that meets the highest standards of sharpness and quality. Beyond the rarity and condition, these coins also highlight how modern collecting has evolved. More collectors than ever focus on quality over quantity, chasing the finest examples rather than just completing sets with common pieces. This shift has made top-graded coins like the 2000 D dime far more sought after, and the value follows that demand. What's especially fascinating about this coin is that it challenges what most people think of as valuable. It proves that a coin doesn't have to be centuries old or made of precious metal to hold significant worth. The 2000 D dime is a testament to the importance of condition and collector interest in today's market. Finding one in this level of perfection is like discovering a hidden gem among a mountain of everyday change. So what does that kind of condition translate to in terms of value? That single 2000 Denver Roosevelt dime, graded MS-68 with full torch detail, a regular 10-cent coin from the year 2000, now carries a value of $44,000. Yes, that's $44,000. A coin you could have easily passed in your change jar is now one of the most sought-after modern dimes in top condition. And what makes it valuable isn't a printing error or a special release, it's the fact that it was preserved perfectly, while nearly every other example was not. It's a reminder that coin collecting is about more than age or appearance. Sometimes, the most valuable pieces are the ones hiding in plain sight, coins that look ordinary, but are anything but, once you look closer. Thanks so much for watching today's video and exploring these amazing coins with me. If you enjoyed learning about these rare dimes and want to see more content like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Your support means a lot and helps this channel grow. Feel free to leave a comment below if you have any questions or if there's a specific coin you'd like us to cover next. I'm looking forward to sharing more fascinating coin stories with you soon. See you in the next video.